Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the car closet. As you can see, I'm out of the closet today, making a road trip to Minneapolis. My daughter's dorm is opened up, so we can go back up there and get all her stuff moved out. So that's what we're doing today. We've got 2 cars going up. My wife and my daughter are up the road ahead of me a little bit. I had to stop, get one of these for the trip, and they didn't want any of that, so they just kept on going. So I don't know if I'll catch them or not. Yeah, so the dormitory situation is kind of interesting. They're allowing 2 students into the dorm at a time per dorm. So each building can have 2 students in at a time packing up their things. So we actually had to sign up for a time slot, and we got this afternoon 1 to 3. So everything's got to be out of there, or 1 to 4 I think it is. So everything's got to be out of there by between 1 and 4. And you're only allowed to bring 1 guest in with you. So my wife and my daughter will be in the dormitory bringing stuff to the front door, where I'll take it and take it the rest of the way to the car. Hopefully we can get this done in 3 hours. Should be fun. But anyway, Minneapolis is 3.5 to 4 hour journey. I'm probably about an hour down the road so far. I'm on these back road, southwest Minnesota here, Highway 60. And figured I'd turn on the camera here. Don't know how the video or audio quality is going to be. This is actually my second take. I had the camera mounted on the dash at first, and it just buzzed a little bit too much with the road. So now I've got it suspended from the mirror and the shade, the visor. So it's going to bounce a little bit with the road, but it's not like at least it's not making these mechanical buzzes like it was before. So I figure I'll talk about different topics on my way up today. I don't know if it'll be a lot or a little content-wise, but I've seen other people do these, where they just ramble about hobby-related topics. So I figure I've got a lot of time to kill all by myself here in the car, so I'll probably do some of that too. So I'm gonna sign out here, make sure everything's looking okay, and then I'll hopefully be back. Talk to you soon. Alright, it didn't look like it was too terrible, so I think I will stick with this setup. So let's talk a little bit about the National. Some other channels are starting to report that the National, which is scheduled for late summer this year in Atlantic City, is being postponed until the week before Christmas. So my thoughts on that. I'm thinking it's going to cut down on the number of people that go, and I think it's going to cut down on the number of vendors that go as well. So I think it'll probably still be a decent card show, but I'm guessing, I haven't been to a National before, but I'm guessing that it will be lower caliber than the National is used to. But hey, if you live in that New York, New Jersey area and it's just a car drive for you, why not go anyway? It should be a good card show at least to attend. And those people that are flying, I think, are probably going to cancel. It's just my gut feeling on it. I had never planned on going this year anyway. I've always said I'm looking for Chicago in 2021, and unless this furlough drains me of all my savings, I still do plan to do that next year. I think I'll be okay. So what I'm hoping is that means there's going to be a ton of excited and eager YouTubers in Chicago because they missed a year in Atlantic City this year. that'll be all pumped up to go in Chicago, and that there'll be a really good showing. And hopefully I can meet you all. There's especially those of you that are regular commenters and supporters of my channel, you know, who entered my contest, and you know, I'd like to meet you all and put a face with the voice and get to know you a little bit. So that's my hope, is that there's at least a decent show, and that the people that are not able to go will be extra fired up to go the next year in Chicago. For those of you that are playing along at home, I'm about to go through a little town called Windham in southwest Minnesota. This is not an interstate, so we do have to slow down for these towns. But it is the quickest route. It's 4-lane all the way, which is nice. They just completed 4 lanes about 2-3 years ago. So I thought I'd just, while we're slowing down here for this town, I thought I'd talk a little bit about my channel, where I think things are at. You know, I really like where things are at with it. You know, my subscriber count, I think, is like at 154 last I looked, which is not bad. There's a lot of people that are growing faster than me, a lot of people that are growing slower than me. I kind of feel like I'm in the middle somewhere, but I love what I'm doing, and that's what it's all about for me. And I've got a number of you that, you know, if I were to meet you in person, it's going to be like meeting a friend. And so that's what's really important out of this. You know, if the channel grows even more, great. I love it. You know, that just means people are interested in hearing about my journey, because that's really all my channel is me going through my collecting journey. I'm not trying to make it anything it isn't, or not intended to be just for the sake of viewers. But it's the friendships, it's the relationships that you form. And you know, like going back to national now, when I go to national, hopefully next year, I'm gonna have a bunch of people that I kind of know, people that kind of know me, that I can hook up with, and that's going to be a lot more fun than if you just go to national and don't know anybody. And so hopefully that's a benefit of it. This little town of Windham here is actually a thriving little town. Even though the coronavirus has supposedly got people indoors, it looks like there are people at the stores here. There is some traffic. For a little town like this, that's not too bad. But anyway, back to my channel. I think I'm trying to, you know, settle in on that 3 video a week on average. That's kind of been my sweet spot. I've noticed that if I do too many days in a row of videos, that the views go down, and I suppose that's because not everybody is viewing them the second they come out, and it takes a few days for everybody to get around to watching my videos, my latest video. And so when I crank another one out before everybody's watched it, I think some get missed. So, you know, 3 a week every other day or so, that's about the cadence I'm trying to hit. But, you know, life happens, and sometimes you don't get a video in for a long time. When I started the channel, I had some intentions of showing my yearly Red Sox team sets, and I've showed maybe 4 or 5. So I probably want to pick that up a little bit, crank through those for people that are interested in seeing older cards, you know, my pre-war, early tops, Bowman. And there's a lot of people that are interested in 70s and 80s too, so I'm hoping to get back into that groove. The Refractor mini-series, it's kind of hit or miss there. They're not videos that get the most views for me, but the people that do watch them really have positive things to say, sometimes in the comments, or sometimes, you know, they'll hit me up offline about them. And so I'll keep going with those. I'll keep doing the mail days, but there aren't as many mail days right now. But I've got a lot of ideas. I actually have a notepad at home with all the things I want to do, and I've got a lot of ideas. And some of them are takeaways from my blogging days, things I used to blog about that I'll probably put to video now. So for those of you that don't know, I had a blog called oldredsoxcards.blogspot.com, and I did that for maybe a year and a half, 2 years, somewhere in there. And then it dropped off. It's just so time consuming to write up these posts, and it's so much easier just to turn on the video camera and just shoot from the hip. When writing it, for me anyway, it takes a lot longer for me to write something out, and then I find myself proofreading it and changing things and making sure I don't have typos. And with YouTube, with the videos, it's just more relaxed, and you just say what you say, and you don't go back and edit word by word. And so it's just a lot easier and a lot more fun, actually. Plus, with the blogging, if you want to show a card, you have to scan it in and then import the scan and, you know, crop the scan, get the size right. It just was a pain, and just took a long time. So I'm going to take some of those concepts that I blogged about and move them over here to the YouTube channel. Like the first one that I did that on, for example, was the Pepino Man impersonation that I did, where I talked about the super glue cards, where there's a ball that looks like it's super glued onto somebody's shoulder or on their chin or something like that. I used to do a lot more of that on the blog. And there's some other ideas I have too, but I have a lot of ideas, and hopefully they're interesting, and hopefully, you know, they help the channel get a little bit more variety to it than just opening mail. Hey everybody, I'm back. About 3 hours down the road now. Roughly an hour to go. But I'm gonna need to stop for lunch somewhere along the way too. I passed my wife and daughter in Mankato. If you're familiar with this part of the world, Mankato is the largest town between here and there. And I'm driving in the riverbed of the Minnesota River, Highway 169 now. So we got I'm down in the riverbed. The river's on my right. The bluffs are on my left here, as you can see. There's going to be a little town up here called St. Peter, which about 20 years ago, 20 some years ago, was a good portion of it was destroyed by a tornado. So it's always interesting to drive through, and you can actually tell where the tornado path was, because everything's newer. The trees are smaller, the homes are newer, and it's just like a line, and you're in that part of town all of a sudden. But after that, there's going to be an interesting silo at a farm, which I'll tell a story about when I get there, and it's pretty cool. It's a Minnesota Vikings story, true story. So this scenic part of the trip right now, in the fall, picture that bluff on the left, completely red and orange and some yellow. There's about 1 or 2 weeks every fall when all those trees have turned color, and it is just beautiful driving through here. This road, portions of this road were underwater back in 1993 when the floods from up north here, this is where it all started, and then they all flowed downstream and flooded St. Louis and parts of Missouri and Iowa, and everything downstream flooded really bad that year, if you're old enough to remember. But this is where it started, was up north here, and the river on my right actually came up and over the road, so it was a pretty bad deal. My wife and I were on our honeymoon at that time, and we were going to Minneapolis from Rapid City, South Dakota is where we were married, way on the west end of South Dakota where Mount Rushmore is. And the water was lapping the road in a lot of these areas in here. And I believe some areas were sandbagged too, where the water level was higher than that of the road, so that they could keep the highway open. So anyway, just wanted to show you this pretty little stretch of road here. I think I'm gonna stop for lunch at St. Peter, and then I'll tune back in and show you this really cool silo that's all painted up. All right, so up on the left there, next to that barn, if you look real carefully, there's a silo that is decked out with Cambria. Hope you're looking. But anyway, Cambria is a kitchen countertop maker just up the road here in a little town called Le Sueur. But anyway, Mankato, so I'm on a little stretch here between Minneapolis and Mankato, which is roughly an hour drive. And Mankato is where the Vikings, for many, many years now, at least back to the 70s, maybe earlier, is where they've had their training camp every summer. And the Minneapolis-based Vikings would drive down from Mankato, and they would stay in the dormitory at Mankato State University, which is now Minnesota State Mankato, but anyway. So they were familiar with this stretch because they would make it many times every season during spring training, or not spring training, training camp. That silo used to be painted as a Coca-Cola can back then. And Bud Grant was the coach of the Vikings at that time. Well, I don't know if you remember or if you've heard, Bud Grant, for a stretch, was not the coach of the Vikings there in the early 80s. He had kind of gone into a semi-retirement. And another coach, Les Steckel, and maybe there was another one in there too, took their turn at it. And then in the early 80s, Bud Grant came back as their head coach for another season. And the Vikings made their trip down to Mankato, right on this very stretch of road, and they were interviewing Bud Grant at training camp in Mankato. After a few years absent, the reporter asked him, "So, Mr. Grant, what have you noticed is different? What's the biggest difference between training camp now, this year, versus training camps back when you were on your first stint as coach of the Vikings?" And his answer was, "The biggest difference I've seen is that silo that used to be painted up as a Coke can is now painted up as a 7-Up can." So if you were from the area, you know that you thought that was kind of funny, because during that stretch while he was gone, they changed it to a 7-Up can on that silo back there. And it was a 7-Up can for many, many years. In fact, it got to the point where it was so faded you could hardly even tell that it had been a 7-Up can. And then finally Cambria took it over and got it painted up. So I don't know if the farmer there rents it out or what. But anyway, that's the story. But Grant, that silo we just went by. Coming up on Le Sueur here. Le Sueur is where we drive up out of the river valley, and then we kind of get into apple orchard country. A lot of apple stands, apple stores, some where you can get out and pick your own. So that's coming up here shortly as well. Up in the upper Midwest here, we have a vegetable, we call them Le Sueur peas. Jolly Green Giant is the name of the vegetable company that makes them. That's all right here in Le Sueur. There is a giant Jolly Green Giant and Little Sprout billboard up here, another mile or two, but we're unfortunately going to be driving up on the back side of it, so we won't get a terribly good view of it. But I'm not sure, do you have Jolly Green Giant brand canned vegetables and frozen vegetables in other parts of the country? I know they're pretty popular up here. So the trip overall is going pretty good. Once we get up to the top of the hill here and out of the river valley, we start hitting some of the Minneapolis traffic, but I don't know that we're going to actually get it because of the coronavirus. I'm not sure what to even expect for traffic up in this area. Going to make a big swoop to the right here, and then we're going to have a long straightaway look up the hill as we drive out of the river valley. I don't think we're going to be able to see the Jolly Green Giant very easily. If you know where to look, he's on the, his silhouette will be on the right hand side of the road once we get a straight shot up the hill here. You gotta look real careful though, because from the back side it's not very obvious. Right there, if you see him, he's kind of tucked up in the trees there. I don't even know if I can point at it or not, but it's like right, I'm bouncing too much, but right there, right above the truck to the right, you'll see this dark silhouette in the trees, and that's the Jolly Green Giant sign. This will be the Le Sueur exit. After that, we get up into the outskirts of the cities. Minneapolis, St. Paul, I think is like 3 million people roughly overall. This is, you know, one of the easier ways to come into the town because it's not one of the interstates. The drive's not so pretty after this. Can you see the Giant yet? Right above the green sign there, up in the trees. You can see it sticking out above the trees now. As a little kid, my brother and I would play a game when we'd go to the cities. We'd have a contest, who could see it first. Gonna check out here for a few minutes, finish eating my lunch. Maybe talk to you again soon. Hey, I'm back. I'm in the outskirts of the cities now. You probably all know this, but the Minnesota Twins are here in Minneapolis, and they get their name from the Twin Cities, which is Minneapolis and St. Paul. They're not quite twins. Minneapolis is a little bit bigger than St. Paul, but they're pretty close. They're basically one big city with the Mississippi River running down the middle. And traffic's not bad at all here in the suburbs. I'm in Shakopee. Pretty easy going. Usually, you know, it's noon on Friday. This is usually pretty hopping when I've been through here before at this time. So the coronavirus, I would say, has less people on the road for sure. More people working from home or whatever. But yeah, almost there. Ready to do some moving of stuff out of a dorm room. Somehow this video turned from talking about sports cards from my channel to telling you, being like a sightseer tour guide. Didn't mean to do that, sorry guys. Hope you stuck with me through all this. Got, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes of city driving to do here, and then we'll be at the campus. You could leave in the comments for me your thoughts about what I said about going through Red Sox team sets, you know, going all the way back to the T206 days. If that would interest you at all, it might only interest Red Sox fans. I don't know. So please be honest with me in the comments on that. I've also got all these sets mostly filled all the way back to 1970. Base flagship sets, baseball, basketball, football, that I could go through one by one. I don't know if there's any interest in that. I do show them when I get one completed. I like to show that off because those are kind of milestone moments for me to finish up a set. I liked showing those Jordans the other day. I've got a number of Jordans, but they're all base cards from the sets. So I could show a complete career run of Michael Jordan minus his Fleer rookie card. I'd have to do that one as a show a reprint for that one, but otherwise I've got them all. Michael Jordan on the Wizards, I think those cards are cool. Aren't as many of those obviously as Bulls cards. So I could do that too, since I have all the sets. I could show complete career runs of Hall of Fame players or popular players from 1970 forward. You know, leave me a comment if you're interested in seeing players like that or complete sets going back. Just kind of many different ways I could display or present my collection going forward. All right, we're crossing into the suburb of Bloomington, for those of you that are keeping track. I don't know about you, but I've watched these videos that are all driving before, like especially like electronic music. Sometimes it'll be some guy driving and he'll be having electronic music going as the music. And a couple times, just for kicks, you know, he never talks like I am now. It's just strictly music with a driving video like this going down the road. And just for kicks, on Google Maps, I've tried to sync up Google Maps to the point on the map where this guy is driving and looking at the clues along the road, trying to figure out what country he's in, what city he's in, looking for exits, you know, and it's kind of a fun little game to play. So maybe some of you will do that with this video. Try to find in Google Maps the exact same location. You know, pause the video and find that location. I guess I've given way too many clues. Probably won't be a problem for you to figure out where I'm at. But anyway, got a little something going on up here. Looks like just some highway pickup, not a wreck or anything. That's good. I'm going to sign off for now. Splice all these together when I get home later and upload it. Not sure exactly how many minutes I've got here total. Probably 20 to 30 would be my guess. So hopefully, if you made it through this long, thank you for joining me, keeping me company here on my road trip to Minneapolis. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.